Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Art Matters Artist Talk with our 2020 Focus Solo Exhibiting Artists, Beanie Young, Thomas Bond, and Michael Hunter Thompson. I'm Kristen Butler, Director of Programs here at the Delaplane Arts Center. The exhibitions that they'll be discussing today are part of Focus, the Delaplane's biannual celebration of photography, and I'd like to share with you a message from our Focus sponsor, PNC Bank.
I'm Fred Gano, Senior Vice President and Regional Manager of PNC Bank. PNC is proud to return as a sponsor of Focus, a month-long celebration of photography. I also want to thank the Delaplane Arts Center for all you do to celebrate the work of artists. Those who create art in every medium and those who support arts education for students of every age. I encourage you to take advantage of all of the Focus events this month. Most importantly, let yourself be inspired. Pick up your camera and see what comes into focus for you.
Thanks, Fred, and thank you to PNC for your support. Thanks also to all of the galleries and businesses here in downtown Frederick who are participating in Focus with their own photography exhibitions this month, and to Frederick County Public Libraries who are co-hosting 3 virtual satellite exhibitions and artist talks. You can find more information on all of the Focus exhibitions and programs on the Focus page of our website, and I'll drop a link to that in the chat in just a moment. If you enjoy our programs, exhibitions, and classes and workshops, consider supporting us by becoming a member. You can find more information on our website. And now, Delaplane Exhibitions Manager, Corey Fry.
Hi, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. We're really excited about the exhibitions that we have running right now. I want to encourage you and let you know that we are open for business. So Monday through Saturday, we're open 9 to 5. Come out and check out the exhibitions in person if you feel comfortable doing so. I know we're in strange times right now. So we have also created virtual exhibitions for each of the shows happening, and we're going to be posting links to each of the individual virtual exhibitions in the chat. You can also find links to those on our website as well. And we've tried to do our best to represent the work well in a virtual platform so that people can get a good feel for the amazing photography that's on display here. But come on out and check out the show. I think I mentioned our hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5, and 11 to 5 on Sundays. So without further ado, I want to introduce our 3 Focus solo exhibition artists who'll be sharing with us today. I'm going to give you a brief introduction, bio to each of them, and then one at a time they're each going to share with us. So our first photographer, our first artist is Beanie Young. Beanie's been creating photographs for the past 40 years, having retired from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, where she worked as a photographer and visual artist with film and in a darkroom. She's now adapted her practice to digital photography. Beanie's drawn to rich textures and the complex colors of aging metal and old abandoned objects and environments, with the hope of pulling the viewer into seeing the beauty of the world by examining things from a different time and place. Our second artist will be Thomas Bond. Thomas is a multidisciplinary artist with an emphasis in photography and is based out of Bear, Delaware. His work is always changing, but lately it's been revolving around the Black experience from a personal perspective in Western society, specifically in the United States, while also questioning and challenging conventional thoughts and societal norms. And then our last artist sharing today is Michael Hunter Thompson. Michael Hunter Thompson is a photographer living in Cumberland, Maryland. He's earned a BA from Frostburg State University in graphic design in 2004. Thompson began experimenting with photography in 2011 using layering, texturing, and other manipulation techniques, and developed a passion for the medium. His style evolved over the last 4 to 5 years, now mainly shooting at dusk and nightfall using a more cinematic approach. Thompson's work has achieved acclaim at the local, state, and national level, and he's currently working on a large-scale photography project at his former high school, which is scheduled to be raised in 2021. So thank all of you for being here with us. The work that you guys are exhibiting is just really phenomenal. It's a great representation of some of the things that photography can do in our current times, and it's really exciting to see your work. I'm going to start off by letting Beanie Young take the floor, and Beanie's going to have some images of her work that she'll be sharing with us as well. Thank you so much, Beanie, for being here.
Sure, Corey, thanks for the introduction. My show that's at the Delaplane right now is called Tonality, and it's black and white photography. I've always been in love with black and white photography because that's my roots. That's where I started shooting film. My father gave me an Exacta when I was in high school. I started shooting film around the neighborhood, and then my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, decided to keep him after he built me a dark room in my parents' house. So that was great. Some of the black and white images that are in the show. This is Mount Whitney in California. It was a great day. At first we thought it was just going to be cloudy, but then at one point, this shaft of light just came out and hit the mountain, made the perfect shot. This is in the Palouse, which is in Washington State. It's a great place to visit. It looks like this everywhere there. The earth is just undulating. This is in the fall, after they've cut the wheat down, and then you get to see all kinds of patterns. This is a succulent. And when I took the picture, it was like dark green and purple. And you never know what's going to happen when you convert it to black and white. And I really like what happened here. This is actually a double exposure of calla lily. This I have to thank my dog for, because when I take him for a walk, I never know. Sometimes I'll take my camera, or sometimes I have to rush back and get my camera. But we went out one day and this light was just hitting this fern, and I rushed back in and came out and got the shot. This one, I love the contrast of this one, the white of the air pump and then the Coke sign. But another thing that I love about this one is I love it when there's kind of hidden things that you discover later on. And if you look at the door, there's the shadow of the gas pump there, which kind of finishes the story of this image. I love patterns. I love patterns in nature. This, I'm kind of obsessed with hostas. This is I have some ferns, and the light is coming through the ferns and making the shadows on the hosta. And I love to go to lily ponds. This is after the lotuses have bloomed and fallen off. These are the seed pods. And just love this kind of pattern. This is back in the Palouse. I love the pattern and flow. And then there's that tree that you discover. This is in Death Valley, another one of my favorite places to go. This is early in the morning, and I love the patterns and textures in the sand. So I love textures in ice. I don't like cold weather, but I get very excited when it gets down below zero around here, because then I know that I'm going to get some great patterns, because the water kind of freezes as it's moving. And last year we didn't have a day like that. I don't know if we ever will again, but I really enjoy it when it happens. I've recently been exploring the world of infrared photography. I love the dark skies and the ethereal looking landscapes. These are lily pads, and infrared green tends to turn white, and I just love the way these looked. This is Zabriskie Point in Death Valley. This is also an infrared. This is at lily ponds. You can see how the skies turn, blue tends to turn dark, and the green tends to turn white. And then there's the bird in the front. He's blue, so he's kind of dark. This is the Botanical Garden. This was in Louisiana, the Bayou, which is also a place I love to go shoot. This is an old quarry, and a little bit later I'll show you the colored picture of this, but the reflections were great, and you can see I like how the leaves pop out because of the infrared. This is lily leaves, and I just love the way this turned out because it almost looks like x-rays, like you can see through the leaves. I don't understand how that happens, but I thought it was cool. And here's some more succulents. So the color. I also love to shoot color. Black and white is a very favorite of mine, but I love to shoot color. I love fog. This is a foggy morning just the other day. And if I wake up and I see fog, I pack up and I'm out the door. So this is the color picture of that quarry. This is what it looked like in color. So very different than the infrared picture. This is reflections in the stream that are moving that I really love. This is also at lily ponds. I always take some food, fish food with me so I can throw it in and create a fish frenzy. And I love to shoot the fish. Poppy. So these are those same lily pads that were in the infrared. You can see what they look like in color, very different. Again, a foggy morning. I spent a long time there waiting for those horses to get into just the right position, but they finally did. This is Font Hill in Pennsylvania, Font Hill Castle. I love textures. I'm drawn to old aging objects. They are rich in detail and help tell a story. I just love old trucks and old cars. I love the textures and the paint and the colors. This was just a door panel on a car. I don't know if this car was painted white once and red once and blue once. I don't really know how this happened, but it just looks like abstract art to me. And I just love when I find things like that. Same here. I love the cracks and the paint. And I don't know what was going on here, but I just thought it looked pretty cool. Also, this is also in the junkyard. This is what happens to the glass when it, I guess it freezes and thaws and freezes and thaws, and these gas bubbles develop and these great patterns develop. This is also glass in an old car in a junkyard. I do love to shoot animals and sometimes develop a series of images to dig into a subject. So this is my grand puppy. This is my daughter's dog, Jasper. And he knows when he comes to stay with us, which he does quite often, that he better be ready for a photo shoot. This is him too. So I've got an ongoing series of dogs in Frederick, dogs in the window in Frederick. And there's quite a few of them. And I just love how they create their own texture for me. They slobber and scratch all over the glass, and it makes for great images. Like this one. This guy, I love this guy. I've gone back and shot him many times. He's just great. And this is his brother. I love him too. I also love to travel. I love the diversity of the natural world and the cityscapes filled with rich images. So this was in New Mexico. The top of this image was a 30-second exposure, and the bottom of this image was a 2-minute exposure. And then when I got back and processed it, I put them together to make the one image. If I had shot 2 minutes for the stars, they would have moved and been blurry. This is just so you get an idea what the Palouse looks like in the spring. All these wonderful colors and still all the flowing lines. This is also the Palouse. And this is the Alabama Hills in California. And the Bayou in Louisiana. I got a chance to go to France 2 years ago. That was a great trip. This is in France. This is also in France. and went to Iceland, and that was a wonderful trip. We were lucky enough to get some great northern lights, and it was just a great trip. One of my favorite trips was my trip to Cuba. This is Cuba, from the top of a building looking down on all the houses. You never know what you're going to find in Cuba when you're walking down the street. This was some boys bringing home some birds in Cuba. They hang their birds outside by their front door. This is one of my favorite pictures from Cuba. This was in Italy, which I went to last year. Luckily, I went last year, not this year. This is in the Vatican staircase. Of course, the Colosseum, one of the great little towns in Tuscany. Again, fog. I was so thrilled this day that when we got out to this landscape that there was fog. Tuscany was beautiful. There's Tuscany during the day. They just have fields of poppies and flowers, and it's just beautiful. And last, I do enjoy doing composite work in Photoshop. These are a few things that I've put together in Photoshop. This one's called Procrastination. I just have fun working on these kinds of images. I've always thought that female body kind of looked a little bit, like the violin, or the violin looked like a female body. So I melded them together. This is another fun one. And this is the last one. So thank you for listening.
Beanie, thank you so much. It's really incredible work. I'm really glad that you shared some of the work that's not in the exhibition, just so we can get a good feel for, sort of your reach and how it spreads out into different areas. Really enjoyed that. Thank you. So one of our other exhibiting artists right now is Thomas Vaughn. Thomas, thank you so much for being here. Really excited to hear about what your history with photography has been like and where you're headed now. So.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Where do I start? I graduated with a fine arts degree from the University of Delaware, 25 years old. Like you said, my main thing of work is photography, mostly film photography. I started photography actually pretty late. I didn't start working in photography until like my junior year of college. But I would say I had a lot of experience with it, where my mom, she liked to take a lot of photos and stuff whenever we would go to like different places. Like I remember one time we went to New Orleans, and my mom she loves New Orleans, and she would take pictures of like the architecture and stuff like that. And she would take pictures of me, which I didn't really like her taking pictures of me, but whenever she would be done taking pictures, I would kind of ask her, hey, can I borrow the camera for a little bit? And I would just kind of like snap a couple pictures of like architectures and like different colors and stuff like that. And I think that was kind of like the precursors of me like kind of getting more into photography as I got older. Um, and it's funny, when I was at University of Delaware, I changed my major like so many different times. Like originally I was marketing, then I eventually moved to communications. But the spring break of my junior year, me and my mom went to San Francisco. And once again, she brought her camera. Once again, she was taking pictures. And once again, I asked her if I could just borrow it for a little bit. And so the whole time we were going all around San Francisco, and when I was just taking a bunch of pictures and stuff like that. And after the spring break, I was just thinking, I didn't feel like communications was the best major for me. So I was just going through the different majors that they had at UD. And for some reason, I didn't really have a lot of background in art, but I just decided to changed my major to fine arts. And in order to get into the fine arts major at University of Delaware, you have to have like a portfolio. So basically my whole portfolio was just like the photos that I took at the trip. But yeah, so once I got into UD in the fine arts, I started to get into like photography more and digital photography. And in one of the classes, in one of the photography classes, we started to learn film. So that they gave us like film cameras, and we had to do a couple film projects. And I don't know what it is with film, and that was my first experience with film, but I just like fell in love with it, and I think that's what improved my photography even more. Um, I think maybe just the fact that like you can't really see what you're taking like the photo of. Like with digital, you can take it and you can automatically see what it is, and like you kind of have that in your mind. But with I feel like with film, you have to kind of just like really imagine and like really use your creativity, and I think that helps me to like picture what I want to take before I take it, and stuff like that. But so yeah, so that's how I got into film and photography, and then I just been working on film ever since. So I started to get into some of the work. So here's some of my work. All of this is film. I originally started with 35. Um, Here's some of my like 35 millimeter, and yeah. So and still it continues. This is a trip that we took to I want to say San Antonio, and I brought my camera with me, my 35 millimeter, and this time my mom wasn't taking pictures, I was, but just still kind of fall in love with like architecture and stuff. Especially when I'm traveling, I like to do like street photography with that, and just like different little things. This is also in Texas. Um, but also kind of like with like a lot of my work, as you can see, like a big theme is like for some reason I like to have like black women and like black people as my models and like my muses and stuff like that. This was at Afro Punk. I just was walking by and I just saw them just doing a little photo shoot, and then I just liked the kind of perspective of just like kind of these two girls just like cheering on and like kind of supporting this girl, and she's just like being her just like natural self and just like living life. And I really enjoyed capturing that moment. Um, and for this one, so I don't usually have like a certain thing that I want to take a photo of. I kind of just have like an idea that I think of, and I just kind of present the idea, and like I just let the viewer kind of like come up with their own conclusion a lot of times. So with this one, I wanted to kind of I was just thinking about how someone just using their own means. At this time, I was in college, and like obviously people know like college students don't have a lot of money, and so I was just like kind of like working on projects, and I just have like these ideas, and like I don't necessarily have like the money and like the funds to kind of like create the ideas that I'm thinking of. And also with kind of being in Delaware, it's not that kind of like glitz and glam city and stuff like that. So like the locations are kind of like limited and stuff like that. So I just kind of went on this idea of like someone using their limitations to create something great. And so for this one, I went to Goodwill with like one of my friends, and we just got a bunch of like stuff from Goodwill and just kind of put it together and tried to make something that looked more like a higher end, like fancier, like outfit or dress or gown or something like that. And then kind of being like, so this location was actually on campus. They were doing construction, and like there's just like big mounds of like dirt. And so like every time I show people this, they kind of ask like, "Oh, where is this?" or whatever. And like I just tell them like, "Oh, it was just on campus," like because they think it's like at some mountain range or something like that. So I really like this photo because it kind of like describes like who I am as an artist, or at least early on. I'm just kind of like using my own means, like outfit wise and creating the idea wise, but also me kind of like being creative with like the locations that I'm picking and like the places that I go in Delaware. Because I always love when like I pick like a kind of a normal place in Delaware, and like people would ask me like, "Oh wow, where is this?" And yeah, kind of same with this one too. This was like more of like a streetwear kind of thing. I wanted to kind of create that idea in Delaware because, like I said, you don't really get that kind of work here in Delaware. Um, but yeah, this is also kind of like shooting, just like I said, like shooting like black subjects and like specifically like women and kind of like showing them in like a different perspective, or at least like the perspective that I have. This is the photo that I had at the juried show, I believe last year, that came in second place, and that what's helped propel me into this photo shoot and this artist talk. But this is another one where I just had an idea of like this girl who's just kind of like in this like weird outfit that kind of like shows her expressing herself and showing her like weird or like eclecticness or whatever, and then just kind of feeling like a little bit kind of like by herself or lonely or like ostracized because of like the way she expresses herself. And so yeah, I had her in this outfit and like the flowers and the cowgirl hat, and like you can't really see it, but like she has like makeup on and stuff like that. It's just like a little bit different. And her expression and stuff like that, how like she's kind of just herself and like she's being herself, and like sometimes kind of like being yourself kind of like separates you from certain people. So yeah, I just wanted to present that and see like how people can relate. And then this is another one like her kind of just like uh showing that. And this is titled Black Swan, because like I felt like just kind of like how the story goes with like Black Swan. um So let me go into the show. So the show that I have up is called Space. Um, for this one, once again, I tried to just kind of come up with an idea and then present the idea, and let the viewers kind of come up with their own conclusion. Especially with this one because I wanted to kind of talk about like perception and how that can be uh, like changed on like how society perceives people, or perceives certain things. So with this one, I got a bunch of my friends, and I put them in this like these kind of attire that you wouldn't really see people in like these certain locations. So I went into like very affluent and like very like rich and glamorous, or I wouldn't say glamorous, but rich and like affluent locations and stuff like that. And like I got people and I put them in like kind of like clothes that you wouldn't really see them wearing in these locations. And so like I kind of wanted to juxtapose those two opposing, if you believe that it's opposing like forces, and like have people come up with a conclusion from that. Do you think these do you think people like this should belong in these spaces wearing these things or wearing this attire? Why does this attire make you believe that, like, or and stuff like that? So just a bunch of questions that I wanted people to come up with, as opposed to me saying this is wrong, this is right, and stuff like that. I think people kind of come up to their own conclusions. I think they kind of learn better when they have to kind of like grapple with those things that they have with themselves, and like those ideas and those thoughts that they have with themselves. So so yeah, I'll go through a couple of them. Originally, I wanted to just kind of like shoot these kind of groups of people for the show, but because of like the virus and COVID, I wasn't able to like finish most of it. So I added a couple like older works. But yeah, I really like this one because it's a girl and she has a do rag on, and that's kind of like the whole like excuse me. That was the kind of like topic that I was kind of going with, like attire wise. That's a little bit different, but it's a Louis Vuitton one, and that's kind of like the whole more like rich and like affluent aspect that I wanted to bring to it. And I'm pretty sure it was like fake, so that kind of like adds to it too. Um, these two guys in this like garden that I'm pretty sure this is like the DuPont mansion. So yeah, these two guys there wearing a do-rag, wearing the clothes that they're wearing, and then just kind of just like being there, being present. And I like kind of like the glare of the sun that kind of like kind of blocks them off. So it's like you can't really see them, but then you see them, and just like I don't know, I like the kind of like narrative that that kind of makes, or it could make. And another one, this is also the DuPont mansion, and then just kind of like sitting there and just like posting up, and then like kind of like being themselves and like wearing the clothes, like I said, that they're wearing, and just I like this like kind of like the narrative that this makes. Um, and then also I added this one to the show. So this one was in the show, and this one was in hold on. And this one was in the National Jury Photographer, or the photography exhibition, or the one that was just recently this year. But with this one, once again, I just kind of had an idea of like a girl in like a dress, a gown, but then also wearing like just kind of like rain boots or whatever. And just for this one, I kind of wanted to talk about more of like social norms with gender and stuff like that. So this girl's wearing like a more feminine dress, but then she's also wearing like these more masculine like I guess the rain boots or whatever. And she's also in nature and kind of like in the wilderness and stuff like that, where you wouldn't, if you have a dress or a gown, if you're going hiking through like a forest or nature, you wouldn't wear this type of clothes. So kind of like talking about, or kind of like commenting on like gender norms and like what girls are supposed to do, and like what how people perceive women and like what they're allowed to do. These are other photos from the show that I added, where yeah, I just wanted to kind of like show just like people in like different perspectives and stuff like that, and just um kind of like depict them in a different way, and like have them kind of like someone like kind of think about it and like comment on it differently. Same with this one. This one I experimented with like expired film, and I like the textures and like the colors that it makes. That's another reason why I kind of like gravitated more to the film. This one is with like a medium format camera, so it's like a bigger mirror and like a bigger negative, so you get more of like the like textures and like the image and stuff like that. But yeah, I like film more because it's kind of like clay, or it's kind of like painting, where you can kind of like mess around with like how you use the ISO, or like if you push or pull the film and stuff like that. And I feel like you can kind of like mold it and like the film more than you can with like digital. So those are like kind of different things that I wanted to experiment on. This is my website if you wanted to see more of my work and different like projects and stuff like that.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I loved hearing about sort of your development, your curiosity as a child with your mom's camera, and her giving you the freedom to pick that up and just explore what that looks like, and that sort of snowballing to your interest now. It's a great story. Yeah, Thomas, thanks so much. So next up, we have Michael Hunter Thompson. Michael, thanks so much, man, for being here.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me. I'm honored to be included, especially with, going through Beamy and Thomas's work there. I'm honored to be a part of this with them. But pretty extraordinary work, guys. I really loved your stuff. As far as me personally, my mom's an art teacher, so I've been around art stuff for my whole life. So I went to school for graphic design and grew up painting, drawing, all that stuff. When I was like in elementary school, I wanted to design shoes for Nike in the 90s. So I used to actually make prototype illustrations of sneakers, and I would send them to Nike. And then they'd send me back letters saying, hey, it's not that easy to become a, thanks a lot, but yeah, it was very cool though. But anyways, I've been in art my whole life. And as far as photography goes, after college, I really wasn't doing much with art at all. I was painting here and there, doing stuff like that. But I went into our local arts council here in Cumberland, and the woman was telling me that they had an upcoming photography exhibition coming up that anybody could enter. It was like a competition. And this was in like 2011. And she told me that they had a special effects category. And with my graphic design, background, I was like, oh, it's cool. I could just do some Photoshop stuff, and because I don't really know how to use the camera very well. I really don't know anything about the camera, to be honest. And so I went through and I started thinking I could carve myself out a little niche doing manipulated photography stuff just to see if I could get into the show. And I got in the show, and it kind of took off from there. So I'll share my screen and I'll go through some of that stuff. And my style has kind of morphed over the years. Now doing, not really doing the manipulation stuff anymore, although I do love that stuff, the Photoshop stuff. But let me go ahead and share up, and we can kind of go through some of this stuff and you can kind of get a feel for it. All right, so let's see here. Okay, so this is a piece that I did. I took this with a really old iPhone a long time ago, and this is the piece that got into the first show I ever did, and for photography, and it was for a special effects category. And it's basically what I did was I took this structure. You can kind of see like right here, it's like a garage loading dock thing. So it's cut in half. So what I did was I took the photo, I deleted out the background and made it white. And then once I had that, I deleted out, this was a doorway in the back of the building. It just like led to the woods. It really didn't look very interesting. So I just deleted that out, and I mirrored it vertically. And then I started just chopping up the bottom portion. And then, after I did that, I was going through with different erasing. You could there's all kinds of erasing brushes you can use in Photoshop. And I went through and I was just like making textures all over the layers. And that kind of gave it more depth and kind of gave it like I just liked how it looked, to be honest. And just kept playing with it and playing with it and playing with it. And once it got in the show, it kind of gave me like, like a validation, like, it seemed like something that people enjoyed looking at. And a lot of people had a lot of questions about it. And it kind of made me feel like, maybe I'm onto something with photography. And it kind of made my passion for it kind of start growing significantly after that. So after that, I was like, I'll just start making it like I'll make a series of these things, and I'll start thinking of other things I can take pictures of and manipulate. So here's another one. This is just an ordinary picture of a rooster that I took many years ago. Well, I don't know. This is probably like 2012 or something. And I was thought about doing a freak show, animal freak show series of work. So I deleted out the background. I kind of made it look like it was a vintage photograph, but it was a freak rooster, basically. I did a whole thing of these, and I didn't make, this is the only one I tried to make vintage looking like this, but this one kind of, people enjoyed this one when it was in shows. They had a lot of questions about it. And usually when people have a lot of questions about my work or anybody's work, it kind of gets you thinking, you think you're onto something a little bit, and it makes you want to, at least it makes me want me to explore further. So I went out to an aviary here locally, and I thought owls would be the perfect owls. Everybody loves owls, especially barn owls. So I did a whole series of owls. They had 5 different species of owls out of this aviary, and they got them out for me up close and personal. And I took photos of them, and I tried to get them straight on. If you get them straight on, then see what I would do is I would delete out the background similar to that structure. And after that, I would cut them in half vertically this way. Then I would start using the layers. I would layer them up and layer it up and layer it up, and and start again with that texturing technique with the erasers and everything. And then at the very end, since the original photo was taken square on, like just squared up on the photo, on the owl, I was able to just reflect it, and it made it come back to life, like a perfectly symmetrical face. So that's how I achieved those, and people seem to enjoy the animals. Okay, here's a electrical station, same deal. This time I went a little crazy with the wires just to get some more textures, and I was just playing around with it. And I just always love those crazy huge electrical power stations that are at the side of the road. Sometimes if you ride by and you see those things and all the I don't know what the conductors and all those all the crazy stuff that I have no idea what they are. They've always been very interesting to me. So this is another one. Here's the same thing. This is just a elephant at the Pittsburgh Zoo. So there's this guy named Gregory Crewson that I found out about many years ago. Well, probably about 6-7 years ago. And I always loved his work. And I found out that this guy, he's very well known in contemporary photography. He's very famous in the photography world, but he has these huge budgets. He has these huge team of people doing these things. He comes up with these concepts. He shuts down city blocks, and he has like these professional, like movie lighting people come in and use cranes and all kinds of stuff. So I thought to myself, I wonder if I could pull off like a Gregory Crewson style photo, just to see if, for fun, like a fun project to do. And this, I'm a sales rep. I don't do photography as like a profession. So on my sales route, this particular motel's on the side of the road in Romney, West Virginia, and it always caught my eye, especially this particular structure, which is very symmetrical, which kind of lends itself to the other stuff I was doing with the mirror images. And I thought, it would be pretty cool if you kind of voyeuristically see something different going on in both rooms, both units at the same time, and there'd be different things going on. And you're just driving by and you snap a photo of it. Well, I kind of lucked out with the snow and everything, and it's taken right at dusk. So right here, this is my wife. This is my buddy's leg. We got there early and we had a couple beverages right there. And this is my wife taking on a secondary photo. And the camera's on a tripod. So, you can continuously taking more photos, and the sky just kind of got this insane royal blue sky color, which I did not manipulate. It just ended up looking like that. So this is the one that ended up winning a couple of awards. And I thought, oh, wow, people seem to really like this. And I loved doing it. I try to make them all very, very, very ambiguous, as meaning like, I don't like to show people's faces. I don't like things with showing things that have like a timestamp. So you don't know what era things are from. Here's another one that took out at Deep Creek Lake, which is this is a cabin, like a cottage my family has out of Deep Creek Lake, Maryland. This is my wife. This is the same buddy. I always get these people in my life to do these weird photos with me. So I basically come up with the concept, and this is my daughter, and with some binoculars right there, kind of looking off into the distance. So you can kind of read into things, and you want to kind of go into see what the story is, the narrative, similar to what Thomas is doing, but mine is very, a lot more ambiguous because I'm not showing people's faces, so you don't recognize anybody. But I always had there's this photographer, I can't remember his name, Robert. I don't think it's Robert Frank. It's another Robert of this residential house, and you can see in the house this woman that's inside the house, but there's a window behind her. So you're looking through one window and you can see her, and then there's a window behind her and you see her silhouette. And that inspired this part right here. I thought it'd be nice to have a couple kind of looking at each other. What's going on here, Okay, here's another one that I just recently did, and it's in the show that's currently at the Delaplane. This is behind my mom's house, and she actually lives really close to a horse farm where they give lessons and whatnot. Anyways, I went up to the woman that owns the horse farm. I said, hey, do you think we can get some horses down by the creek? And she said, sure. So I said, okay, well, I'm gonna bring my daughter. We're gonna wait till it gets about nighttime and we're gonna take some photos. So there was actually another horse right here behind some bushes, and the handlers were right here because the woman that handles the horses said that the horses behave better when they're in pairs rather than being singled out. So I had my daughter, who's 6, kind of trying to balance on this tree that fell across the creek, which was very picturesque, and then I had the horse here, but I had that magic moment where the horse looked at my daughter, but because the whole time the horse was looking over here at the other horse, and it just for one frame did that. So this is another one that if you've ever been to Cumberland, Maryland, usually this is a very iconic church in Cumberland. It's been around since like the early 1800s. So the show's at the Delaplane is called Night Walker, and this took me forever to plan. Okay, that's the fun thing about these photos, because they take forever, especially this one, because I had to get this business to turn their lights on after dark or after business hours. I had to get them the marquee. If you look, it says Night Walker on the marquee, and I arranged that, and I had her putting up the R on the walker. So that was all arranged, but this light was way too bright. So I had the downtown maintenance people turn that light off. These are my daughters. These are some friends of mine. And I just this is a very, very popular place to take pictures in Cumberland. And people from Cumberland have seen that scene a million times. And I thought, what if I did like a Gregory Crewson style photo, but kind of in my style where you don't see anybody's faces in that particular environment, and try to kind of reinvent that particular photo since it's so iconic to Cumberland. And I think I was lucky enough to be successful with that. People have responded, especially in Cumberland, have responded to it. This one was actually taken the very next day, but it took me like a year to plan because I had to get permission from the city. It's a public pool in Cumberland, and I had to be there after business hours. And these 2 individuals are an actual couple that work at the pool. They're both lifeguards. So I had to convince them, hey guys, come to the pool, okay, after hours. Bring your swimsuits. I'm gonna take some pictures of you in the dark by the pool. And they were cool. They were very cool. And I had to get so I had like a guy over here with a floodlight, just pointing it over here. I have their clothes kind of strewn across the deck here, like they're in a rush to get down to the board. And then right here, the pool actually does not have a light. So I bought like 5 scuba flashlights, and I bunched them together, and we made that pool light. And the resulting image, when you take it right before it gets dark, not when it's fully dark and not when it's light, but it's past sunset, you tend to get some nice lighting effects that I just love. I could just take those photos all day. They're very difficult to plan. It takes forever. The weather has to comply. The stars have to align on a lot of this stuff. Like on this last one, this was not planned, okay? This was just like divine. And actually, there was a moment where right above the steeple, it was here. And I was like, and I was starting to edit the photo, and I was like, that's just too perfect. And I used a frame when it's just a little bit off to the side, a little bit here. So these stage photos are very calculated. Every little piece of them is calculated. They take me a very long time to plan and a very long time to execute. But it's fun. They're really fun to do. I just love doing them. I wish it was my full-time job. So, and another thing, I've been walking around at night. These are just walking around at night when it's snowing. So you just go around. This is my neighborhood. I take the dog. The dog comes with me. I take the camera. And you can probably kind of see you can see the streaks, a little bit of snow. it is actually snowing in this shot, and these windows just killed me. I was like, you just walk there and you have to take a picture of that. There was a parking lot over here where there's a big light. You can't see it, but it's illuminating and kind of making it glow. This is the same walk, just very similar image, but I love all the lines, all the power lines on this one. And the lights are on in the houses, which kind of give you a voyeuristic, sense of the image. Like anybody could walk around at night with the camera. It's kind of weird, but you can get some really cool images at night, especially if it's raining or if it's snowing. In my experience, and this is a really iconic. This one isn't in the show, but there was one night where I actually wasn't walking around. I was in the car because there was like these weird pockets of fog all over Cumberland, and they're really, really dense fog, but it was just pockets of fog. And this is a really iconic church that goes over the Potomac River from Cumberland over to West Virginia. And everybody from Cumberland knows this Blue Bridge. Anyways, and everybody's taking pictures of the Blue Bridge. Anyways, there's always this debris. Like there's a little spillover waterfall here. So the water's super calm here, and then it gets over here. You can't see it. It gets really rough because there's like a little waterfall. Anyways, this is always here. There's always some kind of debris here, and with the snow on it, it just made it kind of pop out like some kind of monsters in the water, and the reflection. And I just went up to it, and I just thought it looked like a movie scene, and that's exactly what it looked like. So unfortunately, I didn't have my tripod or anything. I couldn't do a long exposure, so it is kind of grainy, but I don't think it matters because the fog, it just popped out like a movie scene to me. And I had never seen the bridge in that kind of lighting before. So I think, as you can probably tell, most of my stuff, I love cinematic lighting. So I'm doing this other huge project right now, but I don't have to talk about that.
Can you, like, real quick snippet, talk about the project that you're working on?
Okay, sure. So the high school I went to is Allegheny High School, and it's in Cumberland, Maryland. It's really a historic school. It's been around for a long, long time, since the late 1800s. Anyway, the old school, the one that I went to, was in service for about 95 years, and they just built a new school about 2 miles away. But the old school has just been sitting there since they built the new school, and it's been vandalized, broken into, and it's going to be demolished here next year. They're taking asbestos out of it right now, and it's a huge old building, So I thought it'd be interesting if I could do my staged photos inside the school, which ended up actually working out because I reached out to as many alumni as possible to be the figures in the photos. So in the school, so I'm in the school and I set it up about 40 different photos in and outside of the school. Each photo is a different cross-section of high school life. But in each photo, there's different generations of alumni in each photo. So in, say, like a main entrance photo at the high school, all around you is chaos because it's been vandalized. But I tried to make it look natural, like everyday school life is happening. But the people that are in the photos, there's like Bobby Smith from class of 68 is standing next to Jill Miller from the class of 2018, and so on and so forth. And I ended up with over 460 people participate, all alumni or previous, staff of the school. And right now I'm going through and editing the images, and it was an extreme undertaking, but it's like totally changed what I think about photography, and the power of a camera is pretty wonderful, and it's really changed everything for me. It's been great. But thank you. I could go on and on about that, but it's been a wild ride, Corey. Thank you.
No, I really appreciate you sharing a little bit about it.
Sure.
We do have a couple of questions have come through, so I'm gonna shoot these to you guys, and I'll read them off to you. If they're all specific to one of you, but if any of you, have anything else to add, that would be great too. Beamy, one of the folks joining us is named Elizabeth, and she said, for the infrared photography that you're shooting,
Yeah.
she asked if you, let me see. She asked if there's any special equipment that you need for shooting the infrared. She said that the effects are fascinating.
Yeah, so I have a camera that's converted to infrared. What they do is that your camera now has a filter on it that blocks infrared. So I sent it, my camera, it's called Kalari Vision. It's in New Jersey. There's another place that does it out on the West Coast. And then, so they take out that filter that blocks the infrared, and then they put in a filter that blocks visible light. And there's different, mine is I don't understand all the science, but mine is 720 nanometers. And so at that point, pretty much everything's black and white, but you can get a camera converted to like 500, and then you get color, but the colors are all like, trees are red and sometimes trees are pink, and you get all kinds of weird colors. So if you get a camera converted, you kind of have to decide. And if you go to Kalari Vision, you go to their webpage, they'll show you examples of all the different filters. And they have a lot of cameras, all ranges, that are already converted, or that, that they will convert for you. I had a little Sony that I had converted that I bought from them. And that picture that, they have a contest every year. And that picture of Zabriskie Point, that won first place last year. So then first place was $1,000 of something from that company for $1,000. So then I shoot Nikon. So then I splurged. I had to put a little bit more in, but I had a Nikon converted to infrared. So then I can use the same lenses that I use for my regular camera, because I used to haul 2 different sets of lenses and 2 different, cameras around. So anyway, check out Kalari Vision. It starts with a K.
Gotcha. No, that's so great. Elizabeth. Oh, Elizabeth, thanks so much for all your questions. Elizabeth has a question for each of you folks. So Thomas, she asked, the photograph of the gate in Texas. She said, most of your photographies of people. Can you talk about what attracted you to the gate photograph that doesn't have anyone in it?
Yeah, there's this photographer, film photographer from Texas, actually, named Carrie Fagan, and he takes he mostly does portrait photography, but he also takes pictures of like kind of like chairs. Like that's kind of like his thing. Like he has a page called Chairs Are People, where he has just like a bunch of photos of chairs, and he's also started doing like shows where he's like kind of stacking chairs or whatever. But at the time, like he was taking a lot of pictures of chairs and like inanimate objects, but the way he takes it, he kind of takes it like it's like a person or a portrait, and like kind of like personifies it or whatever. So when I saw that gate, I kind of felt that same like vibe that I saw from his photos. So even though it's not a person, and even though most of my like work is like of people, I kind of try to take it like it was like a person, or like I was doing a portrait, and kind of bring some kind of life to it. So it kind of feels like there's kind of some kind of like spirit or something in it. And it was in like a graveyard too. So I don't know if that like added to it or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. While we're on you, Thomas, there's another question that is, I think it's pointed towards the fact in your bio, it says that you're a multidisciplinary artist. So somebody was just asking what other forms of art you're exploring right now.
Yeah, I've been exploring more of like, well, video, but then also kind of like graphic design, and like in college I was doing a lot of like sculpture and painting and stuff like that. It's not at the level. It's more of just like the other stuff is more like personal right now and just like kind of exploring that. It's not really at the level where like I'm like putting it out there or whatever. But yeah, and I eventually want to kind of get into more things where it's like maybe like architecture or kind of things or like fashion or like just I just really like the creative process and doing like different creative things and just like designing different things. So I eventually want to like explore and expand and not necessarily just the main thing is just not necessarily just put myself in a box of just a photographer, just more of like an artist or like someone that just like creates and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great. So there's two questions for you, Michael. One is the photo of the red house, I think at Deep Creek Lake. They were asking, did you make any extra edits to make the red stick out, or was it how it originally came out?
So the house is not red, it's brown. What made it red was I don't have any like really cool equipment, especially back then when I took that particular photo. So what I wanted red on there as a symbolic color. And to get that is right out of the frame and on that particular image, we backed up our car and put the brakes on. So somebody's slamming on the brakes to get those brake lights on right by the house. That's how I got that.
That's so great. I love the idea of like, I don't know, when you think about a lot of the artists that have made it big, you're thinking about equipment and stuff that you can get to do it, but it really is a matter of ingenuity a lot of times and just thinking outside the box, being creative about process.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only other light, the lights that I use are off Amazon. They're floodlights, they're LED floodlights. You get 2 of them for like $80 and they come with a remote that you can change the colors of the lights.
Nice.
That's all I got.
Nice.
I'm not going out and spending thousands of dollars on lights when you can kind of put it together DIY style.
For sure. That's great. And then our faithful questioner Elizabeth in the chat asked about the high school project that you're working on, Michael. She's asking about how expensive it has been, I guess relatively, like has it been a pretty big undertaking for that?
Hi Elizabeth, I know Elizabeth. So it hasn't gotten too expensive. It's going to get very expensive because I don't know if how familiar people are with how much it costs to print stuff and frame stuff. But not only did I end up taking the images of the school, which I'll be framing and printing obviously for a show. I also took a day and went into the school and extracted items. I assembled like a team of people. And we went in there and we extracted items from the school. So it's not going to just be my photos in the show. It'll be like, hey, that, a broken clock from the wall of the school and, items from, I call them like items of, I just told people, go around the school and get items of significance, a pull down map from a classroom, that stuff like that. So that stuff will be in there too. And then I'm going to be doing a book on this one too. So so as far as like financial undertakings, it's going to get real expensive. But I'll be applying for $1 million grants for this thing. And I'm not scared to throw some money at it. It's worth it. This particular project's worth it. So
yeah, that's.
But so far, not too expensive. It's been all about getting the permission to go, execute it.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks so much for sharing. Well, I think that's all the questions that we have. I just want to say it's been a real honor working with all of you, exhibiting your work here at the Delaplane. All the exhibitions are really fantastic. They're great seeing them in person. But yeah, everybody check out the virtual exhibitions as well if you're not able to make it out. But really appreciate all of your time and just your consideration and thoughtfulness in sharing with us today. Thank you all.
Thank you, Corey. You're wonderful to work with.
Thanks.
Yeah, Corey, thanks.
Oh, for sure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen again.
Thank you, everybody, for participating in our discussion today. Thank you to all of our artists. Please check out the rest of the Focus exhibitions and programs, all supported by our generous sponsor, PNC Bank. While you're on our channel, check out all our other videos and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notifications about other videos from the Delaplane. Thanks again for watching and for joining us today.